listening to Watching the Rundown with Ramon. My name is Ramon Ray, publisher of zoneofgenius.com. And here's another great episode today, which may scare you a bit, but scare you in a good way. We're going to talk about scams and fraud and all kind of things that you do not want to have in your business. Michael with Visa is here. Michael, can you give us your full name, title, your role at Visa? And again, welcome, Michael, to the Rundown with Ramon. Glad you're here.
Well, thanks for having me. Yeah, my name is Mike Lemberger. I am the regional risk officer for our North American business here at Visa, and I look after all the scary things you talked about. But actually, no, I really help us protect and grow our business in the safest way possible.
I love it. And just curious, what is Visa all about? We all know it. We have your cards in our wallet, but at a high level, just curious, why is Visa caring about this? You're not like a security company, routers and servers and network. We don't see when you click a link, that Visa, I don't think does that directly. So why is Visa even interested in, I think I know the answer, but why is Visa taking a stake in this? Just help us get at a high level what this is about.
Yeah, look, as a tech provider, as a network, we move money. We move money, and when you move money, you got to make sure it's secure. And I think that's a big part of our brand. It's a big part of what I think people recognize. If you use a Visa product, you know that your money's safe. And it's going to get there, and we're going to protect you. And that's what we can talk a lot about how we invest in it and all the different things that we do to help educate our partners, our businesses, our small businesses, our large businesses, our consumers. But yeah, we really take it seriously because it is part of our brand.
Great. Love it. So, Mike, let's get right into it. Let's talk about the small business market. I don't know if you are personally, I'm sure you are, every American, maybe everybody in the world. I am inundated, Mike, with text and scams and phone calls, and maybe things are true. Maybe it's my mother. Maybe it's not. I don't know, all kind of things. Maybe I should click because I got the UPS package. Wait a minute. It said UPC, not UPS. Michael, what's going on, whether personal and business? Can you just help me understand what's happening to the world? It seems like somebody flipped a switch and all the scammers and hackers and bad people came out at once. Set the stage for us. What's happening?
Yeah, look, we in many ways has brought this upon ourselves with technology.
Sure.
You used to protect yourself from the pickpocketer on the street, right? And you knew what to do, and you knew sort of how to keep your things close, and maybe you wore like a thing underneath your shirt to protect things. But we've all gotten digitized, and we've gotten really into the luxuries and all the great things that come with the technology. Many of us can't live without text messages now. We can't live without a WhatsApp. We can't live without a digital payment or an online subscription. And all those things, in order for those things to work, for us, they also need to sort of carry payments, carry money. And fraudsters, they're only interested in one thing. Right? They're interested in your money ultimately. In many ways, they're after your data. They're after different things about you so that they can triangulate that stuff and really try and ultimately sort of take some money from you. It's what they're after. So it's that part about it is surrounding us everywhere. And one of the things that sort of has happened is that, like Visa, one of the things that we've done is your physical cards now are chipped and they've got codes and they're encrypted. So stealing somebody's card now, right, is not the same thing from a terminal. They've had to really go online. They've had to get really creative. And what happens with fraudsters is you wind up, you push them to new channels because you shut some down. And all the investments that we've made and the industry's made to close off one area, they'll go to another. And, scams now, and, you'll hear a lot about the AI and deep fakes. That stuff's real now, and it's something we need to continue to educate the consumer and the small business on in particular.
Is there anything, Mike, that you would say, hey, listen, Ramon, here's a few things that I would say every business owner should watch out for this? And I'm guessing that there's a huge, broad array of things you could say, but anything you're like, you know what, when I come to my office every morning, there's 4 of this or whatever, the top things that you could say. If people would just either stop doing this, be aware of, however you want to word that question, but that makes sense, what I'm trying to ask?
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I tell everybody, if it's too good to be true, it has some element of scam in it. And that's really always the case. The second thing I tell people is that fortify and know who you are doing business with. Don't take chances on stuff that is not verified or validated, particularly in a business sense. There's really great ways, there's really great tools out there to go validate stuff. Make sure you're doing that validation. Your financial institutions is a great place. Visa is a great place to go help validate. There's lots of other agencies out there that can help you do that. In particular, small businesses. I really feel that they're a network amongst themselves as well, and use that network to help validate. We particularly in the risk field, we like a tiny bit of friction. I know
Hmm.
everybody wants everything like instantly, but if you ask me, that tiny bit of friction, that step to verify, that little step up we call it, right, is really to me that can make you feel a little safe and secure, and that we're getting the step ups even down to seconds, right? Just like our transactions, but those step ups, and particularly if you're a small business, particularly if your margins are small because you're just getting started or you've put a lot out in front, don't get caught. Don't
Hmm.
get caught by something that's not real.
Yeah. So is it fair to say, Mike, that those who are like, I think there's a few things I can think of. There's thumbprints, which are increasingly more and more on our smartphones. There's 2FA, two-factor authentication, and feel free to break these down. There's also the thing I noticed in some of the browsers. I think IE, or not IE, it's called Explorer. Maybe the
Yep.
browsers have it. They work with you all in some way. And again, you can probably unpack this better than me. Little thing pops up. All these things, even though I think admittedly they're annoying, is it fair to say these are important, though, to keep us secure? And feel free to
Yes,
reframe it how you
sure.
want, but is that a
Yep.
fair statement?
Yeah, I think one of the things that we've spent, it's been a journey now, but we have this thing called tokenization, and within transactions themselves, if I'll break this down sort of simply, if you
Please.
look at cards today, every card that you have has sort of your name on it. It
Hmm.
has 16 digits on it. You'll flip it over. It's got a verification number on the back. It's got an
Hmm.
expiration date. Those are all valid data points that we've used for years as an industry
Right.
to understand, what the credential was to make sure the money safely gets moved. Um, as we've moved to this online environment, the journey that we're on is moving to tokenization, which is really to encrypt all of that data and encrypt it and secure that data itself. And we call those tokens. Those tokens actually then, instead of your data itself sitting in the raw format on a database at an online merchant that you may
Hmm.
have, we go ahead and we want to encrypt that. And by encrypting that data and information, we call those more secure, secure elements, secure transactions that we would have. And therefore, they are much safer to actually move when transacting information,
Hmm.
uh, as opposed to having those 16 digits, because the 16 digits with the verification and whether it's your zip code or whether it's those things are a little bit more out in the open. And so we're on a journey to move that. We're at over 50% of all transactions online are now encrypted transactions. And those transactions themselves have lower fraud on them and actually even higher authorization. We're making better connections to say the merchants are getting more
Hmm.
authorization on their transactions, so higher sales, and we're getting lower fraud on the other side of the transactions as well. So we're very, very happy with the fact that journey is there. We still have some ways to go. We want to see it be 100%, but that's part of Visa's commitment to making sure that money movement and the movement of payment credentials is safe on the as we continue to sort of move away
Yeah.
from cash and in person.
No, for sure. I mean, more and more, I don't know about your family, but in my family, yeah, we carry one card, or minimalization. It's like I have my phone and a card or the card on my phone. It's just the nature of the beast. Um, any particular story? I don't want to scare people too much. So everybody, if you have small children around, Michael may scare you all, have them cover their ears, cover your eyes. I don't know what's going to come. Mike, any story again that you
Yeah,
have or anything like Ramon, just to give us underline, this is a real thing. This happens. Anything that comes to your mind, and I'm sure
yeah.
there's many.
There's one here, and we call it triangulation fraud.
Okay.
Uh, and I'll break it down for you because I think this one is really interesting because it has elements of all kinds of happy customers, sad customers, but ultimately fraudsters are driving this.
Feels like a Lifetime movie. It may be beginning to come here, a Lifetime story or something.
Yeah, exactly. Let me break down this for you sort of
Yeah.
in an example. Let me just give you this example. You're on your favorite social media platform,
Hmm.
and one of those ads pops up, and it says you can get a smartphone, that smartphone that you've always wanted that costs $1,000 for $600. Now, you should go up, say too good to be true, but you're like, wow, this is a sale. It's a one-time thing. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on that. I click on this phone. It takes you to a site online. The phone looks okay. The site looks legitimate. I go on there and it's like, hey, it's $600 for my phone that I wanted. I go ahead and I put my card credentials into the site. And lo and behold, I send that off and it said the phone's going to ship in 3 to 5 days. Hey,
Great.
everything looks good, right? Everything went through. The bank transaction went through. It got authorized. I see it on my online statement for what's there. And lo and behold, 5 days later, what shows up at my place? A brand new, perfectly not a scammed one, not a knockoff, the actual phone that I thought I wanted to get.
Okay. Now
All
I'm
great,
really
right?
listening.
Right? Now, let's go behind the scenes and see what happens.
Right.
Okay. This merchant who advertised on your favorite social media platform
Mm-hmm.
for a $600 phone set up a merchant site, looks legit. They did all the right things. They bought your phone. You took your credentials. They charged you $600. They took that $600. They put it in their pocket. They went on the dark web. They found credentials for somebody else. They went to a legitimate site, a legitimate small business or big business, bought that phone for $1,000 with a fake credential, had it shipped to themselves. They shipped it to you.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what's happened behind the scenes there is they pocketed $600 of your money.
Mm-hmm.
You're a happy customer. You went out and gave a 5-star review because you got a $1,000
Mm-hmm.
phone for $600. You legitimized this fake business.
Mm-hmm.
They stole credentials. Then the person who got their credentials stolen calls their bank and goes, hey, there was a fraudulent transaction. And now what you have is you've got a legitimate merchant
Mm-hmm.
now caught up in a scam from a fake merchant, right? And so what's happening here is you've got sort of layers of scams sort of going on. Now you've got a consumer who got their card number stolen,
Mm-hmm.
right? They've got to dispute that transaction. The person who got the legitimate phone is really happy,
Mm-hmm.
but ultimately, I mean, if they knew what was going on, they would feel really bad.
Right.
Uh, Now, we've got to figure out as sort of an industry, right? Like, what's the recourse for this type of stuff? We're doing a lot of things and we're continuing to monitor. We monitor the dark web. We've invested, over $10 billion in our risk operation centers and our cyber centers to sort of watch all these transactions to sort of prevent these cards from being stolen and why we're tokenizing. But today, these things are actually happening and they're really hard to sort of triangulate and get down. So we call it triangulation fraud because it's really hard to sort of see where it's actually happening today. And ultimately the part that's probably even the saddest is that guy who got the $600 phone who put his card details up there, he's going to be the next $1,000 phone that gets, because those legitimate, and so it's an endless cycle. So some of this goes back to it's too good to be true. I think I still am a big believer in that as sort of protection for what you want. But ultimately, look, I think that we as Visa and our network partners continue to really try and, one, encrypt all of our data to make it safer so you can't steal it. And two, our algorithms, our tracking, our tracing, and looking, even work that we do on the dark web is trying to prevent a lot of this stuff, but it's out there. And these are sort of examples that the normal person is going to really have a hard time, just even understanding. But as fraud fighters out there and others, we're out there trying to really make sure that we protect the consumer.
I love that. I'm curious, Mike. One thing came to me, and thank you for sharing this. And I think that this is one of those crimes. I think we just all have to be careful and vigilant. And some things, there's nothing. I could be wrong, but some of the things are so devious. It's really up, thankfully, to Visa and your partners of the world to protect us, because that's way above what we could even do. I think-ish, except for the too good to be true. To be careful. Anything for the merchants, Mike? I know that's at the side of the equation. There's me and my grandmother, my auntie, my uncle, and my family. How we spend. But any thoughts just for the merchant, that business owner? I don't even know how to ask it, but you know what I mean? The
Yeah,
business
no,
owner that's accepting the card. What can they do?
yeah. I think we've been looking at small businesses in particular
Mm-hmm.
in really three categories that we have now. And one is the one who has a brick and mortar store. You're on a main street. You're selling stuff. And you've got your goods and services around you. Obviously, you've got some protections, which you're taking physical cards, and you're probably really low on the fraud side. A lot of those businesses, though, in order to grow their businesses, are moving online.
Hmm.
And so you wind up with an omni-channel situation where some of your stuff's online, some of your stuff's in store. And as you sort of do that, you wind up with some vulnerabilities in sort of the way that your systems are connecting if you don't
Hmm.
do it right. And what I say is when people go that omni-channel way, make sure you're connecting with the right partners who are thinking about the way that your descriptions are the same, making sure that so if somebody wants to charge back a return, it's seamless through there. Because if you don't, you become a little susceptible in that realm of, well, I'm almost faking myself out, right? And then therefore I'm gonna always either give the customer something back when they may not legitimately want it, or I'm susceptible to fraud because somebody can say, hey, I'm going to play somewhere in between
Right.
for those things. So for small businesses, I always ask them, particularly when they go omni-channel, make sure you do your homework, find the right companies, the right technologies that's going to protect your both the credentials that you're storing, right, as well as the ways that you're going to do in-store and online connected, because fraudsters look for that.
Yeah.
They're really, really good at finding the sweet spot in between for those things. So we tell small businesses, particularly in that area. For the ones that are just online small businesses, and they're 100% online small business, which is a good portion. I mean, we're bringing millions on all the time. When you are 100% online business, and in many instances, you're global,
Hmm.
right? Because anybody can find you. You're really as good as the partners that you keep in a lot of that. And also how and what you accept. Accepting Visa comes with our Visa rules, our Visa standards, our Visa protections, and that that you sort of have that. I know some small businesses try and get into sort of accepting other payment mechanisms that are there, bank to bank, other things. Look, those things are all legitimate payment sources, but they don't necessarily always have some of the same chargeback and fraud tools that you will get with a card payment type of transaction. So just be wary and just understand what you're getting into and whoever's sort of bringing you on board and how that's sort of setting that up. So I think that's important. And the third area that we're seeing from a small business perspective is this is the communities that we're seeing now around um, uh, all of these um, people that are, what are they called?
So
They're
online.
they're online, but they're like YouTube stars and
Okay. Yeah. Influencer marketing creators. And
influencers
oh
and
yeah,
marketing
huge, huge.
human there, and they're all small businesses now,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
They're all becoming small businesses, and they're sort of getting online, and so they're taking payments from lots of
That's right.
different places,
In
and
small increments. Hmm.
in small
Yeah.
increments.
Yeah.
And we always tell them as well, make sure that as you think about it, influencer community, all that, make sure that you are understanding how you're getting your payments and who's helping you store it, because
Hmm.
there are fraudsters out there as well who are looking to, right, either offer you a service to help you collect the money, right, or always telling you, hey, you can get onto the next platform or the next thing, and sort of take you sort of for you and
Sure.
maybe your followers for sort of a little bit of a ride on some of those areas. And so the influencer community, I guess, is sort of what I would look at, is that we see them as small businesses as
Yeah.
well. In the way that they're sort of collecting stuff, so make sure you're managing the right set of platforms when you're looking at those types of businesses. But and once again, we'll always promote taking Visa cards and Visa products, because we know the protections there. And we actually, even as a company, are now starting to protect other types of transactions.
Hmm.
And we had a recent product announcement. Even account-to-account transactions can be protected by Visa now, because of
Nice.
the data and the information that we have. And so we're expanding our reach in those areas as well. But we're out for the consumer and for the small business in those areas.
I love that. One final question I have, Michael, and I want to make sure I'm keeping it this way so I can have you again, so your team can be like, Ramon kept it nice and short and to the point, and then I can have you again. What should a small business do? And I'm guessing this is a very broader question. There's 1,000 things they could do, but if there is a problem, if they are hacked, and I'm sure it depends, but just a few broad things, like you find out, oh, we've been breached, financially, otherwise. Any best practices they should start to do that you think?
Yeah, I mean, look, I mean, first of all, like, try and limit the damage.
Yeah.
And whoever your partner is, in particularly whether it's your financial institution, whether it's in many instances you may have brought on what we call a payment facilitator or the
Mhm.
technology provider that brings that. Let them know right away. That's where the tools and the expertise lie. I would say is that don't try and do it yourself. Because it is hard, it is complicated, and actually, we're all here to help you because when we see it in one place, we can then, you can help your neighbor in many instances when you have some of this stuff. You can also record things with law enforcement. Both the Secret Service and the FBI do have portals that you can go to. You can make sure to go to a .gov network. And then I always tell people too, when these things happen, check your rating agencies. If you're a consumer, you can go check at one of the rating
Mhm.
agencies. If you're a small business and you're the undersigner, go check that stuff. Make sure that somebody hasn't really gotten in deep on you as well. I think it's good and prudent advice to sort of make sure that you're protecting your own credit because you're only as good as sort of what you can represent, and particularly as small businesses, you get a little vulnerable in those areas.
Yeah, for sure. I love this. Mike, anything I didn't ask you that you wanted to bring out? And do you mind just one more time give us your full name and your role at Visa? But any question I didn't ask that you wanted to add anything before we conclude? I think it's been a great discussion so far. Good awareness discussion for sure.
No, I just look, we want people to be aware that Visa's here to help. We continue to invest a lot in protecting the consumer and the business. We're a network underlying it. We're continuing to come up with new ways to understand the way that fraudsters think and try and outthink them. We will never get to 100%, but the investments that we've made, like I said before, I think it's over $10 billion in the last few years just to really upgrade all of our systems globally. And so wherever you sort of carry a Visa product, you know that you've got a big network and a company looking out for your back on that. And so I appreciate the time letting me share some of the stories that we have. There's many more. I'm happy to come on again and share some other good ones. But once again, my name is Mike Lemberger. I'm the regional risk officer for a North American business and looking after all things to keep people safe.
I love it, Mike. Thank you so much for joining us all on the Rundown with Ramon. Appreciate you and your team so much.